Folks, I ain't lazy, but I am loafing. I'm talking about a sourdough loaf of bread. Stick around, this is worth it, I promise you. Great day above the grass it is, and on this great day, what are we going to do? Make a loaf of bread. I don't see no Wonder Bread here, no store, no bread truck going to come by. It's sourdough. Now, this is not your traditional sourdough, remember? Shan's going to have a link right up yonder, she is, about our quick set sourdough starter. It was a staple going down the trail for old Cookie, and it still is for us today. Now, this is a low maintenance starter. You don't have to feed it all the time. It's ready to go in 24 hours. Then you can make something. If you don't want to use it no more, pour it out, start a new batch. So let's get right into it, folks, because I got a hankering for some bread. So what are we going to do? I'm going to wet this measuring cup a little so that starter don't stick to it so bad. And I'm going to take 3 cups. You can see the consistency there is a little thicker than buttermilk. And I've never made 2 batches that come out the same, I'll guarantee you. So stir it down like Shan showed there a while ago with stirring it down to get it to that consistency. Some rapid rise dry yeast, 1 packet. What always goes in there with the yeast to help it kickstart? That is sugar. Get your little electric whisk out. Incorporate it well. So we're going to let this set till we don't see any more yeast particles, and then we'll add the rest to it. 1/3 of a cup of vegetable oil. To that we're going to use 2 teaspoons of salt. And I guarantee you that is on the money. Baking powder. I have diced up 2 jalapenos, 1 medium-sized yellow onion, 2 tablespoons of garlic. I'm going to put 2 different kinds of cheeses in there.
What?
Hang on, you heard me right.
Kind?
2 kinds of cheeses. Some pepper jack. Now, if you was a measuring kind of person and you want to know how much I was going to put in there, I'd say probably close to at least 3/4 of a cup of each one. Folks, I'm going to add me about 3/4 cup of this sharp cheddar. But remember what I told you about these cheese graters? Watch yourself. They get your hide, your knuckles, your fingernails. You can add to this whatever you want to throw in there, but do it before you put the flour in there, because you can't incorporate it well if you don't. It's come time to add the flour. Now, a lot of them recipes are going to say 2.5 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 5. I always try to start with the least amount and go from there. Now, it's going to vary from recipe to recipe, whether this is a biscuit or this is a piece of bread, a loaf, because we're going to make this drier than what we could a biscuit. Sourdough consistencies are going to be different depending on where you live as to where I live, to your elevation, to anything in the world. So I'm going to start with about 2.5 cups. Then we'll go to folding this in. So this would make about 3 cups. So we're going to call that about 2 3/4 and see what's happening. It is getting to the time to where we can put our hands on it. You can see that when we mash this, it ain't sticking to my hand. Even when we roll it over, it still ain't sticking to my hand. We're going to take it out of that pan. Now, this is what you can do when you cook out here. Throw the pan on the ground. And then we're going to work it. You'll never see me do a biscuit like this in your life. I'm looking to toughen this up to where it will stay together. It will dry out a little. You want to get it to this point to where we've kneaded it time and time again. And you can see it's pretty firm. But I got to make me a loaf. Voila! We have made a loaf of bread, we have. Do you see a loaf pan out here anywhere, Shan? Do you?
No.
Okay, what are we going to do?
I don't know, Kent.
So, inquiring minds want to know, let me get my loaf pan. This look like a loaf pan to y'all? Does to me. I'm going to show you how to make a loaf of bread in one when you ain't got no loaf pan. Now, if you got a 14 at home, A deep one, I would rather you use that, but we're going to use a deep 12 because I figure more folks got it than this. What we're going to do, first we're going to grease it. Then what happens? Looky there, it is just a fit. I need some bumper guards in there. Now I've used green sticks that won't catch on fire while they're baking. I've used beer cans, Coke cans. I ain't got none of them today, so what am I going to use? No, it ain't a cow chip, I promise. It is some aluminum foil. When you get it to where it will fit, and that will be just a fit, see that? Make sure, folks, that you grease the side of it that's going up against there, because I don't want it to stick. So we got that one in place. Now what do you think about that? If you ain't got a loaf pan, this is the way you make one. So we're going to let it rise about 30 minutes out here in the warm sunshine, and then we're going to cook it really, really slow. It's been about 30 minutes, it has. Them hardwood lump coals is about ready to go. Look yonder how things have grown. We're going to egg wash the top of this pretty good. Bread is touching the end of this oven down here and down here. So wherever that is at, folks, we are going to try to put especially light coals and maybe even leave some off on them ends. Pretty light and a fair distance away. Pretty light around the bottom and top. I left them ends where the loaf of that bread is touching each end of that oven sort of bare on that side of it. That way we can sort of keep that heat a little bit regulated. Because remember, if you'll go back on a coal placement video that we did so many times ago, and Shan might even have it linked right above there, how you can target heat and place coals where you need them. But we're going to keep this going as slow as we can because we need to get the maximum rise out of this bread. Now folks, we've been on about maybe 20 minutes, and I raked that heat to the sides there so we could notice a little browning going on the top, so we pulled it off to the sides. Made sure we checked our heat all the way around. They were still good and hot because we want this to be slow. We're still bare here on both sides where the end of that bread is. We're still good and hot, so we're going to let her go on. But them sideboards we put on there, now that bread has rose up and sort of got firmed up due to the heat of cooking, we need to take them sideboards out so that can brown accordingly with the rest of it. Now it's going to look a little jiggy-jaggy. It ain't a smooth surface. You can see some of it done seeped out on this side and got over here. The reason we took that out is so that could brown on them edges that we're getting closer to getting done. Had to add a little heat to the outside edge because it is sort of ashed out a little, and the top edges of the top also on the outside edge where the loaf of the bread is. Now we are still bare on each end, but we are 3/4 of the way cooked through. You can tell by the way it feels, and it is beginning to firm up. So what we're going to do now is we're going to scatter these coals to where they feel this end in all the way. Pull these back up here on top to where they're scattered out pretty even around there because I want to brown that crust up really good. You can tell by feeling this, it's firmed up on the edges pretty well. So I know we're getting pretty close to done. I know it's not burning yet. We're going to be good and crisp. Still a little soft right in here, so I wanted to flash that a little on them ends to help them brown up a little because I do like everything to be the same color throughout. But we're going to get a little hot on the bottom here on both sides. So what we're going to do, we're going to pull that off the bottom and see if that residual heat that's in that cast iron will go ahead and cook it. Let that finish browning on top, and them ends, I think when we took it off there, the edges are about done on the sides, still a little doughy in the middle, but with the heat we have from this good cast iron and it's sitting, it will take that heat and finish cooking it. Well, folks, we're gonna try to get it out of there. That is hot, let me tell you. That is what you call the right crust. So much flavor in there. I like the moisture that it kept in there. That's what I'm after. If you had you a pot of that homemade stew, and Shannon will have the link up there to do where we had that stew recipe that we made, dip that off down in there. You get the onion, jalapeno, the garlic, the butter has seeped its way down in there. Now, if you're going to do this in a Dutch oven or in a conventional oven in the house, I'm going to help you out. We cooked this nearly 50 minutes, maybe a little more. Now, I'm going to tell you what to do to speed this process up. Make this into 2 loaves. You may have to put it in 2 different ovens if you're doing a Dutch oven outside. You're going to cook it a whole lot easier, a whole lot quicker. I'm just telling you as a gift and a bonus. This is what you call, what is that word? Artisan bread baking.
Whoa.
Well, folks, we thank y'all very much from the bottom of our hearts stopping by, learning how to make some good sourdough bread. We appreciate it. We don't take it for granted that y'all stop and watch this. Be sure and hit that little subscribe button. God bless you each and every one. We'll see you down the trail.
They heard about your cooking.
They thought I was fixing to cook some beef. Hey, I don't know if y'all noticed the background I had in there while I was cooking. This was an old rock house many years ago, and when I was growing up, it was always here, stood in a little better shape than what it was now, due to an old Texas cattleman that brought some cattle up here, but he kept getting burned out during Indians and wildfires and everything else. So he come up here and he built him a rock house. Now, them rocks, they always told me, came from over towards the Wichita Mountains. Hauled them over here in a wagon, they did. Stage line that used to come through this country from across back over here by Houlihan, come across the river and come through here and stopped. So this old rock house at one time had a lot of history. I bet you folks that they even had a loaf of bread here at one time and they enjoyed it.